So what are the problems we have solved? These are the very basic problems. So many problems have been mentioned on the book. You can go with that. So we have been solved a type of those kind of problems. So today's problem is a 30 dB right circularly polarized antenna in a radio link radiates 5 watts of power at 2 gigahertz. The receiving antenna, the RX antenna, has an impedance mismatch at its terminal which leads to a VSWR of 2. The receiving antenna is about 95% efficient and has a field pattern near the beam maximum given by ER is equals to twice AX plus AY JAY F R theta comma phi. The distance between the two antennas is 400 kilometer and the receiving antenna is required to deliver 10 to the power minus 14 watt to the receiver. Determine the maximum effective aperture of the receiving antenna. So this is all about the problem. It says that at 30 dB right circularly polarized antenna in a radio link radiates 5 watt of power at 2 gigahertz. Okay. So this is the power level of the transmitting antenna which radiates some amount of power, that is 5 watt at 2 gigahertz operating frequency. The receiving antenna has an impedance mismatch at its terminal. It is having certain impedance mismatch where it has been connected with the receiving antenna has an impedance mismatch at its terminal which leads to a VSWR 2. So due to this impedance mismatch there is certain reflection and that reflection leads to give us some VSWR, voltage standing wave ratio, of 2. Okay, the receiving antenna is about 95% efficient. the antenna is 95% efficient and has a field pattern near to the beam maximum. The direction where it has the beam maximum, it has been given by ER of this expression. The distance between the two antennas is about 400 km, and receiving antenna is required to deliver 10 to the power minus 14 watt to the receiving section, that receiver circuitry where it has been connected. So receiver needs to take out 10 to the power minus 14 watt power from the incoming signal, and it needs to deliver to the receiving section. So determine the maximum aperture for the receiving antenna. So we need to find out the maximum aperture for the receiving antenna to deliver this much amount of power under this scenario. So let us go with the solution for this. So here gain is given as 30 dB. Operating frequency is 2 GHz. The radiated power, it is 5 watt. Okay. So if we assume that our transmitted antenna, though it has been not specified anything whether it is how much efficient or not, like this receiving antenna, if it is not specified, so we can say that directivity is same as the gain. This directivity is same as the gain. Therefore we can write directivity dt of the transmitted antenna, it is 30 dB means 10 to the power 3. So what we assume? Assuming lossless transmitted antenna. Now if that is all about the transmitted antenna, now if we comes to the receiving antenna, what it specified? VSWR is specified, it is 2. Efficiency, it says about 95%, and the field pattern they have specified ER is equals to twice AX plus JAY FR theta comma phi. Okay. Now we can go with our phase transmission equation. According to phase transmission equation, what it says, PR by PT is equals to efficiency CDT of the transmitter, efficiency of the receiver, then reflection coefficient 1 minus gamma T whole square 1 minus gamma R whole square lambda by 4 pi R whole square, directivity of the transmitter, directivity of the receiver, and polarization loss factor PLF P dot rho R whole square. So that is what according to the phase transmission equation. Now let us see what are the different parameters is been given. Our PR, it is given because we need to deliver this much amount of power. So PR is 10 to the power minus 14 watt. ECDT, efficiency of the transmitter antenna, though it is not specified, so we can consider it is 100% efficient 1. 1 minus gamma T square we should consider as 1, since transmitted antenna considered as a lossless, it is 100% efficient, so we can say the transmitted antenna is lossless. Assuming transmitting antenna is lossless. ECDR, it has been specified as 95% efficient, so we can write down as 0.95. Now VSWR is also specified, so from that VSWR we can find out this gamma R. So since VSWR is specified as 2, so what this one is 1 plus mod gamma R by 1 minus mod gamma R. So what is this gamma R is? VSWR minus 1 by VSWR plus 1. So it is coming out as 1 by 3. So what is this 1 minus gamma R square? It will be 8 by 9. Now we need to find out this lambda and this R. R is given. So we need to find out this lambda. So operating frequency is specified, that is 2 GHz. So we can easily find out this lambda. So lambda is C by F. C is 3 into 10 to the power 8 by 2 into 10 to the power 9. It's coming out as 0.15 meter. So R is 400 kilometer. So it is 4. Sorry, it is 4,000, not 400. It is 4,000. This distance is 4,000. 4,000 kilometer. Okay. So what is this lambda by 4 pi r whole square? It is coming out as 8.9 into 10 to the power minus 18. Now what about this polarization loss factor? That is PLF. Now since no data is given for this incident field EI of the wave traveling from the transmitter antenna and incident upon the receiving antenna, only the receiving antenna field description is given, right? But incident wave forms the maximum beam in the receiving antenna. So how to get this PLF? There is no information available about this PLF. So we can say that this PLF is, the polarization is in such a way we can have the maximum reception. Now this PLF should be considered as the polarization match, but this receiving antenna is 95% efficient. The transmitted antenna is lossless antenna, so we can consider, yes, the transmitting antenna is highly efficient compared to the receiving antenna. So we can say this transmitting antenna and receiving antenna is polarization match to some extent, since receiving antenna is less efficient. Okay, so how to find out this PLF? But we can say yes, the receiving antenna is somewhat efficient compared to the transmitting antenna. So we can say the polarization match to some extent. So for this case, so I'm just writing here the transmitting antenna, transmitting and receiving antenna is polarization matched. Different perspective we need to think before going with to some conclusion for any parameter. Polarization match to some extent, since receiving antenna is less efficient. So for this type of case, for this type of case, we will consider a standard incident electric field as EI is equals to the opposite of this polarization match. Just try to have a look on this. What is the unit vector for this? This is the unit vector. So for polarization match, to some extent we need to take the opposite of this, right? So what we can consider, that EI, that incident field on the receiving antenna, which has been coming from the source, is the transmitter. So we can write down this one as AX minus J of AY, right? And our receiving antenna polarization is been given by this. So obviously to have the polarization match, we need to consider the opposite one, whatever the concept we have been seen at that case. So we can say this unit vector for the transmitter, which is considered as rho I for the incoming wave, it is 1 by root 2 AX cap minus J of AY cap. And for the receiving antenna, this is the polarization condition. So we can easily take out that one as rho R is equals to, it is 1 by root 5 2AX plus JAY. Now we need to find out the PLF. Therefore this PLF, it will be rho T unit vector dot rho R unit vector whole square. So what is that? 1 by root 2 AX cap minus J of AY cap into 1 by root 5 twice of AX cap plus J of AY cap. So it is coming out as 0.1. Fine. So now we'll put all these parameters on our phase transmission equation. So we need to find out the aperture of the receiving antenna. Okay. So if we can able to find out the directivity of the receiving antenna, then we can easily find out the aperture, because it is having the relation with the aperture. So this parameter, this expression, what we have written here, let us go with this. Let us write like this: PR is equals to PT into ECDT ECDR 1 minus gamma T whole square 1 minus gamma R square lambda by 4 pi R whole square pi T dot PLF. PLF is known, we have derived this value. PR we have been found, PT also we know, ECDT it has been assumed as 100% efficient, ECDR it has been given on the problem. So in this way we will go. So PR it is 10 to the power minus 14, that is what we want at the receiver side. PT is given as 1, ECDT it is considered as 100% efficient, ECDR it is 0.95, 1 minus gamma T it is 1, then 1 minus gamma R square it is coming out as 8 by 9. This value it is 8.9 into 10 to the power minus 18. Derivative we have found as 10 to the power 3. dr, that is the unknown, PLF is considered as 0.1. So by taking all these things, we can take out that dr, directivity of the receiving antenna, it is 2.661. So once we are having the directivity, we can take out the maximum aperture. Therefore, maximum aperture AEM, it is lambda square by 4 pi dot dr, that is lambda square by 4 pi into 2.661. So it comes out as 0.0476 meter square. This is the maximum aperture of that receiving antenna to have the power of 10 to the power minus 14 at the receiving side. Clear? Fine. So with this, yes. Hmm. Hmm. No, that is what we can't say. From this value, we can't say that what is the shape, actual shape of the antenna. Either it is a rectangular shape, either it is a circular shape, or it is in wire with a finite thickness. That is what we can't say. That is the limitation. Means the orientation, that is what we can say, but the actual structure of the receiving antenna, that is what we don't know. So whatever the transmitter and receiver is been used, that should be known before the transmission or reception. The structure or the type of antenna which someone has been used to have the reception or the transmission, that will be specified during the operation for depending upon different purpose. So a certain antenna may be specified for certain operation. Let us consider for radio link reception or transmission. For that case, separate antenna may be used. For a single receiver, as in we as a user, we can use a different kind of antenna. So that is what can't be specified or can't be figure out from this expression or from this. Well, it is not possible. Okay. Anything else? Any other doubt? So with this, we have been completed the parameter part, fundamental parameter for the antennas. Now we'll start solving different kinds of antenna. How to solve or how to find out the fields which have been radiated from a kind of antenna, and how to analyze that field, how to take out the radiation pattern for that antenna, how this radiation pattern looks like, what should be the activity, what are the different fields associated, how the pointing vector be coming out. That is what we are going to analyze. So for that analysis purpose, we need to make use of Maxwell's equation, which are very important. So if we go with the Maxwell's equation, what we know? Maxwell's equation indicates the fields, orientation of the fields depending upon the sources. So if we look into third and fourth Maxwell's equation specifically, so what it says, del cross E, that is the result, the reason is the magnetic field intensity. So if there is certain magnetic field intensity or magnetic flux density which is time varying in nature, that will obviously create some electric field which is curl, which is having certain curl, means which is in rotation. So if there is certain magnetic field which is time varying in nature and it decreases with time, that is del cross E is equals to minus del B by del T. If it decreases with time, then it will has the electric field, associated electric field, which is under rotation. So in the same way, if we go with fourth one, that is del cross H is equals to J, if there is certain current flow, there will be certain circulation of magnetic field. So if we are having an antenna on that antenna we can figure out what is the characteristics of that source being connected with that antenna, how this current is flowing on that antenna, what is the current configuration. Then we can find out, yes, what is the field associated with that source on from that structure. So whenever we are been going with the analysis, we need to solve the Maxwell's equation. That is our first task. We need to solve the Maxwell's equation depending upon the specified current source which has been connected with that structure. So if the current source is known, so we can easily figure out what are the fields being associated with that structure for that source. Now, if the source is a simple AC source, let us consider a known AC source, then that will be quite easy to find out the Maxwell's equation, to solve the Maxwell's equation. Now there are some situations where depending upon the structure, the field, the current configuration which has been coming out from the structure or the source which has been connected on that structure, the current configuration may be a difficult one. So for that case, it becomes quite difficult to directly solve all those Maxwell's equation. Or you can say, whenever the source has been connected to a structure, the fields have been radiated on the medium. So you can say the structure is having certain medium, that may be a conducting medium, that may be a non-conducting medium, that may be a conducting medium where the conductivity is varying. Now when this current has been given on that particular medium, either it may be a metallic structure, it may be a electric structure, whatever it is, but whenever the fields have been coming out of those structures, the fields have been propagating on the medium. That medium all again is having different kind of characteristics. That permittivity may change, that permeability may change, conductivity may change of that medium. So your fields are generated in a separate medium and it is propagating in a separate medium. Now whenever you have been connected a transmitter at a far distant point for the analysis, so what we found, that the characteristic of that wave where it has been generated, it has changed where when the waves are been propagating in a separate medium with the separate characteristics. So it becomes quite difficult to figure out all those changes and to analyze the field. What is the configuration of the field? So for bypass this difficulty, an intermediate step is been taken into consideration. That step will make the process quite easier for the analysis. So that intermediate step is a mathematical function which first takes all the sources, it do all the manipulations with that source, and it gives us an intermediate step from where it has a direct link with the Maxwell's equation solutions. So from that intermediate step, we'll directly find out for any kind of source, we can directly find out the Maxwell's equations, or we can directly solve the Maxwell's equation for any kind of source and any kind of structure. So that intermediate step is known as the potential function. That intermediate mathematical function or mathematical uh, solution, mathematical expression is there which makes this difficult process quite easier. That mathematical process or mathematical function is known as potential function. So for that case, whenever the medium parameters are continuously changing, the Maxwell's equations are not at all remain as the Maxwell's equation which has been considered for a homogeneous medium. Homogeneous medium means, homogeneous and isotropic medium means where the medium properties are remain same, they are not at all changing. But whenever the medium is changed, for that case those Maxwell's equation are not at all remain for the homogeneous medium, they are become the Maxwell's equation in non-homogeneous medium. So solving this Maxwell's equation for non-homogeneous medium, it is quite complex. So to bypass this complexity, one intermediate step, that is the potential function, is taken into consideration. Okay. So let us go with that potential function solution. What is this potential function is? Let us see what is this potential function. So we are having four Maxwell's equation for time varying field. That is del dot E, all of them are vector, rho by epsilon, that is first. Del dot B is equals to 0, that is your second. Del cross E is equals to minus del B by del T, is minus mu del H by del T. Third, del cross H is equals to J plus del D by del T, or J plus epsilon del E by del T. Fourth one. So where this J and rho are the source current and source charge density respectively. So these are source current and source charge density. Now this equation 2, it says that divergence of some vector quantity is 0. So if we go with our mathematical functions, so when the divergence of a vector becomes 0, if that vector is specified as a curl of some other vector. So we can say from the mathematical expressions, mathematical or vector identity, divergence of curl of some vector is 0. So A is any vector. So like this we can say B is a curl of any vector A. It is equation number 5. So therefore A is equals to 1 by mu del cross A. Now what is this A? As I said already in previous classes, A is the magnetic vector potential. A is the magnetic vector potential. We have already seen this. E is equals to del dot V, del V, that is electrostatic potential, which relates to electric field intensity. Same for this case, it is magnetic potential, which relates to magnetic flux density or magnetic field intensity. So let us go with this Maxwell's equation 3. Let us put the value of B. So substituting this equation 5 to equation 3. Del cross E is equals to minus del del T of del cross A. All of them are vector. I have given here, don't get confused, all of them are vector. Minus del cross del T by del T, or del cross E plus del cross del A by del T is equals to 0. Del cross E plus del A by del T is equals to 0. Now this curl of something is 0. So again let us apply this vector identity. When the curl of some parameter or some vector is 0, if that vector is the gradient of some scalar. If that vector is the gradient of some scalar. So this equation 7 can be satisfied if the quantity inside the bracket is gradient of some scalar function. Let us consider, say it is v, the scalar function. So what is that? Del cross del dot del v supposed to be 0 for all values of v. So what we can write from this equation, that is E plus del A by del T supposed to be some scalar quantity, gradient of some scalar quantity. So let us write minus del V, that is electric scalar potential. It is electric scalar potential. Now we can go with our previous concept for the electrostatic case. If this variation is 0, we can find out electric field as the minus del V, that it maintains the conservative nature of the electric field. So why this negative sign has been given? It given to make it consistent with the electrostatic case. This negative sign is given with the similarity what we have been found for the electrostatic case. Now when the fields are not time varying, it is static, so obviously this del A by del T will become 0. So we can get back to our previous concept for the electrostatic, that is E is equals to minus del V. So that's why by taking into that consideration also it has been given as minus del V. So therefore what we can write, E is equals to minus del A by del T minus del V. So this equation number 6 and this equation number 9. So in these two equations, sorry, this equation number 8 or 9, whatever it is, in these two equations, the electric and magnetic fields are expressed in terms of potential function. Here magnetic field is expressed in terms of magnetic vector potential, and here or here this electric field is been expressed in terms of scalar potential, but both the fields are been expressed in terms of some potential function. Now if we put this equation 6 and 9, this E and H, in equation 1 and 4, it is having the electric field, it is having the magnetic field. So what we can found? Substituting equation, substituting E and H from equation 6 and 9 in equation 1 and 4. One is del dot E is equals to rho by epsilon. So del dot E is this value, that is minus of del A by del T minus del V is equals to rho by epsilon. Let us give equation number 10. Okay, we can more specify this one, more simplify this thing. That can be written as del dot del A by del T plus del square V is equals to minus rho by epsilon. It is equation number 11. And from equation 4, del cross H and del cross H is 1 by mu del cross A is equals to J plus epsilon del E by del T. So again we'll put this E here, del by del T, del A by del T minus del V. So what is that? 1 by mu del cross A is equals to J epsilon del T minus of del A by del T minus del V. Equation number 12. Now if we apply the vector identity here using vector identity, that is del cross A, it will result into del dot A minus del square A. So if we rearrange this equation 12, rearranging this equation 12, that can be written as del dot A minus del square A is equals to mu J plus mu epsilon del T of minus del A by del T minus gradient of V. Equation number 13. So there are one equation, this equation number 11, and now we got another equation, this equation number 13. So both of these two equations is having A and V. Both the potentials are having on these two equations. Now to find out the values of this A and B, this A and this V, we need to decouple these equations. Decouple means all these two equations, either 11 or 13, all of them is having the A and V. But for finding out electric field and to finding out magnetic field, we need to separately take out this magnetic vector potential as well as scalar potential. So this equation 11 and 13, they are the coupled equation for A and V, and if it remains coupled into this A and V, then it's quite difficult to solve. So our first task is to decouple them. We need to take out a equation which solely represented by A and solely represented by V only. Then only we can able to go with electric field and magnetic field separately, and we can find out the electric field and magnetic field. Equation 11 and 13 are coupled equation for A and V, and therefore are quite difficult to solve. Or we can also say that these are not the unique solution for A and V. Now how to decouple them? So there is a theorem been given by Helmholtz, and it says that a vector field is uniquely defined if its divergence and curl are specified. So by taking into this theorem, we can able to decouple this A and V. So according to Helmholtz theorem, which states that a vector is uniquely defined if and only if its both divergence and curl is defined. Defined or specified. Now, if we look into this equation number 5, this equation number 5 or 6, here we have defined the curl for this potential A. But how to define the divergence? We have defined the curl for this vector quantity A on this equation. Now our task is to define the divergence for this vector quantity. Then only we can say yes, we have been specified this vector quantity uniquely by defining its divergence and curl both. So we need to select the divergence for this vector quantity. Now let us consider that when the waves are being generated from a source and they are being propagating on any medium, so we can say the waves are generated by some source, but that source is having no effect or no consequence on these waves after they have been generated. Just try to remember that case when the waves are being generated. So due to the effect of the source, when the waves are being generated and they are decoupled from the antenna arms or antenna terminal, so they will keep propagating on the medium though the source is been still connected on the antenna terminals or not. Once the waves are being generated by some source, so there is no impact of the source on those generated waves. The reason for generation, that is source, but after they are generated, there is no impact of that source on those generated waves. So we can say the waves are been still existing on that medium, but source is not present. Or we can say the waves are existing on that medium, the sources are taken out from the antenna terminals, or they may be remain connected. So we can say the waves are existing on that medium due to source free condition. The waves are existing on that medium due to source free conditions. Source may be connected, may not be connected once they have generated, but due for the generation obviously source is required. So we can analyze, that will make our analysis quite easier, that we can neglect the source after the waves are get generated. So that kind of analysis without source, it is known as source free analysis. So for the source free analysis of the Maxwell's equation, we should get waves though the waves are been still existing on the medium, but source may be absent. So the analysis for those source free conditions, when we have been going with the analysis for the Maxwell's equation, that gives us wave type of solution for the field. And what the condition is that we have been neglected all the sources, or sources equals to 0. Now if on this equation 13, if we go with the source free condition from equation 13, This curl is been specified. I'm just writing here the curl of vector A is specified in equation 6 or 5. From equation 13, del dot A, the gradient of del dot A minus del square A minus mu J, we are taking this one in the left hand side, minus mu epsilon del by del T is equals to 0. I'm just quickly writing this one. Within 2 minutes I'll complete. Now for source free condition, therefore for the source free condition, equation 14, this equation will become a wave equation when equation 14 will become a wave equation when we take this source J is equals to 0. That is, conduction current is not present. So what we can write, if this J is equals to 0, so therefore mu epsilon del of del V by del T plus del of del dot A is equals to 0, or this gradient of mu epsilon del V by del T plus del dot A is equals to 0. So what we can write, that del dot A is equals to minus mu epsilon del V by del T. Now here we have defined the divergence of the vector potential. This is the equation where we have defined the divergence of vector quantity A. So how we have been considered? That has been considered with respect to Lorentz-Gauge condition. So in the next day we'll explain all those things. So this equation we have defined divergence. In equation 6 we have defined the curl. So our vector quantity A is been uniquely specified with respect to the curl and divergence both.